Well, good evening to all of you. I want to welcome you to our live broadcast tonight of Inside the Dugout as we pull back the curtain and go behind the scenes for a deeper look into the sport of professional baseball. My name is Lee, and I'll be one of your hosts for the evening. I serve as president of ABI, Advanced Baseball International. And ABI seeks to promote and develop baseball infrastructure in the developing baseball world, primarily across Asia. So we have unique access to professional experts from the established baseball world, and we want to leverage those skills and abilities to assist you in the areas of coaching and training, equipment acquisition, fields, and facilities. So we would love to help you grow the sport of baseball where you are. And speaking of where you are tonight, there are over 80 softball and baseball players registered for this event from 7 or 8 different nations, including Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Bangladesh, Nepal, Japan, Bhutan. Then I want to give a special shout out to all the baseball and softball clubs represented here with us at this event. The UPM Snitchers, the Raiders, go Raiders, Brothers, the Malaysia Tigers U15, B-Rock softball team, the Garuda Baseball Club, Flash Baseball Softball Club of Bandung, the Gurkha Crew Baseball Club, Malaysia Women's Baseball Team, Jakarta Cheetah Cubs, Thimphu Baseball Club, Singapore Baseball, Hawks Baseball Softball Club, Bantean Braves, and then we even have representatives from the nation of Kazakhstan with us here tonight. So thank you all for joining us, and the many others who have logged on. If you haven't already, give us a like on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at Advanced Baseball to stay up to date with the latest on ABI. Well, we have a lot of good conversation in store for you tonight, so I want to get right to it. I want to kick it over to my co-host. His name is Lai. Lai, welcome inside the dugout.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, Mr. Boss. So welcome, Chris, and my name is Lai Hakim. I'll be your co-host for today. So Inside the Dugout is presented by New Era Malaysia. Down there, we can see the logo. And for over 100 years, New Era has been providing the highest quality of caps for baseball players around the world, which is, I'm thankful enough, I'm wearing one myself. And our guest tonight, for Inside the Dugout is National League Rookie of the Year and World Series champion Chris Coghlan. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor on behalf of ABI and New Era to welcome you to the show. So, Chris Coghlan.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Excited to see you.
Yeah,
man.
Good to have you here, Chris. Just a quick rundown of how it's going to go tonight. We're going to get started with a few questions that really go through your bio and history, kind of give us a foundation for the night, and then we'll open up the floor. Lai will take it away, take some questions from the audience, and we'll have a good time. So you ready? Ready to get started?
Yeah, man. Kick it.
All right. If you would just share with us, when did you start playing baseball, and what was it that drew you to the sport?
I started at a young age. I can't even tell you. Probably my mom would be able to tell you. But ever since I could remember just, swinging a bat, I played a lot of sports as a kid. My dad was a big influence on me in that. And just played for fun. And I think things got a little more serious as just like life as you get older. And, in the time, I think I enjoyed it in the beginning. Because there was always a score. You always knew whether you were being productive or not. And you were accomplishing whatever the goal was, which was to win the game. So I loved the immediate feedback. And then I loved that my dad, loved it, so making him proud and happy was something that I really enjoyed. And I think any young boy aspires to do.
Yeah, that's good. So Chris, tonight we have people from nations where baseball is not the national pastime. It's just starting. Some places we're trying to get it started from the grassroots. What would you say, just to encourage everyone, that baseball is worth it? Baseball is worth pouring into and developing it in their country?
What I care and what I learned from baseball more than ever making it to the major leagues or doing anything that accomplished great in a major league career was the skill set in life, which is how to deal with failure. And this life is difficult and hard, and it's not fair. And neither is baseball. And I think what I love about baseball was, now sometimes I wanted it easier, but I loved the challenge on a daily basis, and I loved measuring up, and then you learn this skill of how to deal with some failure. And nobody feels sorry for you. You get up, and if you don't fix it, you get fired. It's very cutthroat. So I just enjoyed that fact. And now that I'm done playing, I can see so many wonderful, beautiful lessons. The best on the planet in the world fail 70% of the time. If you're a hitter, 70 in the world, and you're considered the best. And I don't know how many billions of people, right? So you're talking, that's a lot of failure. So learning to deal with that, I think, is something that I would encourage anybody to chase their dreams in baseball, regardless of if it goes to college or high school or little league, or if, fortunate enough to get to professional, just because it gives you such good equipment.
So, looking back, Chris, would you say that your talent was evident from the start, or was it more of a process?
Well, I guess that depends who you ask, Lee. For me, you can't, I believe that as a Christian, God gives everybody gifts, and we all have different gifts. And that's why diversity is so beautiful. And so I think God gave me the gift of hand-eye coordination. I think God gave me the gift of grit, which is another word for just a high threshold for perseverance. And then there's a lot of stories in my life that forced me to persevere, that I had to deal with at a young age, that forced me to grow up. And so when I think about the question of, was I young and was it always there? I think for sure that I was capable of hitting and competing, and God had wired me a certain way. But I don't want to slough it either. Like it was hard work. And I mean, I didn't make my high school baseball team. It's like, hey, how does a guy make it to the major leagues and can't make his high school baseball team? That's the question I ask my high school baseball coach all the time. But it's like, I wasn't as good, and that was the bottom line. And so I had to get better. And so I had to work extremely hard to do that. And so it's a combination of hard work and God-given talents.
So it paid off, because in 2003, you were drafted in the 18th round by the Diamondbacks, but you chose to go to the University of Mississippi to play instead of going straight to the pros. So if you would, talk to us about that decision of going to college rather than straight to professional league.
Well, I wish I had a sophisticated answer for you, but it just was, I was very ignorant and just didn't know. And I mean, for me, I didn't, come from money. My dad was a cop and my mom was a school teacher, and they dedicated their lives to service. And, I said, hey, if you give me $100,000, I'll go to professional baseball. That was more money than I could ever imagine. I could get a car. I was like, yeah, and they wouldn't give it to me. So I was like, well, all right, well, then I need to go to college. And my dad's dream was always for me to go to college. And my mom wanted me, I'm very grateful for my mom. She never forced her views on me. And I responded, I think, really well with that, just the way God wired me. So I think deep down inside, she was happy, but she forced me as a young boy, really, as a teenager, to make some grown man decisions, and that it paid dividends, and continues in life.
Man, that's good. So, well, you had a great career at Ole Miss. 3 years later, 2006, you're drafted in the first round by the Marlins. And I think a lot of us imagine that once you're drafted, especially a first-round draft pick, that the glamour begins. This glamorous baseball life begins. But you had 3 years in the minors before you made it up to the big show. So talk to us about those years of trying to make it to the big leagues.
Well, I could do this whole show on those 3 years. That's a lot. So, but I was fortunate to go to a really good school in the best conference in the country, and play for a great university that was one of the best. And then I went to Jamestown, New York. And I remember my agent was Scott Boras, and he said, Chris, don't be in such a hurry to start. You're going to Jamestown, New York. And I don't mean that like negatively to Jamestown. It just, wow, it was big drop off. I was used to playing in front of 10,000 people, and now you play in front of 50 people, and it's cold, and you're traveling on buses, you're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and ramen noodles, and and I came from really good school that it wasn't like that. So it was humbling, and it allowed you to appreciate things a lot different. I mean, I slept in a blow up mattress in a walk-in closet. We had no chairs, nothing. I ate bowls of cereal, and ate, like I said, ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And you made like $1,200 a month, which in America is not much at all. And so it's you just lived and breathed it. And then you climb your way up. It's just like anything in life. You got to have a goal. You got to write it down, and then you got to put action steps in place that ensures you're going to get to that goal. And then you got to go execute that. And that's what I did. And fortunately for me, an average, I think it's like 5 years in the minor leagues. Now things are a lot different because they're moving kids up so young. But when I came up, it was like you had to hit every level. And so you'd spend a good if you come out of high school, sometimes 6 years in the minor leagues and that's if you're really good and you do get to the big leagues. So I was grateful for those times and met a lot of great people, and it was fun for me.
Let's jump forward into action a little bit. 2016, you've had a good career. You win a World Series with the Chicago Cubs, and not just any World Series, but this broke the famous curse of the Billy Goat, which kept the Cubs from a World Series for over 108 years. So a couple questions here. And these are loaded questions, and I know you could talk for days on this, but what's it like to win a World Series? I mean, kind of walk us through those final moments when you knew it was going to happen. And not only that, but what's it like to win it in such a historic way, like with the Cubs, ending such a drought?
Yeah, I mean, the word I remember at the time, I mean, this is a very popular question, and how do you express these emotions to people who weren't there? And, for me, the word I always thought of was epic. That if I gave it one word to win, you're talking about 108 years. You're talking about one of the largest cities in the country. You're talking about a tradition of they used to call them the lovable losers. Everyone loved the Cubs because they never won, and they felt bad for them. And so it's like people hate the Yankees because they won so much, you either love them or hate them. But man, everybody loved the Cubs because they never felt threatened. So it was, you got to break that mentality and then just throw in on all the other layers, man, the game. You're get to games, you're down 3-1. Everybody's in Chicago is like, it's over. The Cubs blew it again. They're the best team on the planet and they still can't win. First team to come back from that. We go in, Cleveland and we win. And we're up big in Game 7, up big. And I was like, man, I remember thinking, I hate saying this, but it's the truth. I remember thinking, man, I kind of thought this game was going to be a little bit closer, and sure enough, wanted to headbutt a wall because I was such a dummy for thinking that, or wishing that. And then here we go. And, Rajay hits the homer off Chappie and rain delay, and I'm like, dude, what happened? And so we had to regroup mentally. That was a huge blow. That's a huge emotional blow. And I think the rain delay really helped us gather and just pause for a minute and then get it together. And we came out and won. And then, the partying began, and it was mayhem. So it was, you're watching. I never saw so many grown men cry. Never. And just people were dying the days after the World Series in Chicago because they said they were only living so they could see the Cubs win. And they would die the next day, and they were dying a happy person. I mean, it was very incredible. Riding around on the parade was a memory I'll never forget. I mean, you had like 6-7 million people. I think at one time it was like the 5th largest human gathering in our world's history, in our world, not just our country. I mean, it was 6-7 million people in one place. I mean, you just couldn't see them. I mean, it was insane. So it was a great memory. I'm grateful that I got to play a small part of that team, and it's something I'll cherish forever. I mean, you can see my sign in the back here. Where is it? It's my office at home, and that's I don't even know what to call how they made that, but that's our logo when I was in Chicago, and guys signed it, and it's sentimental to me for sure.
Yeah, that looks great.
That's incredible. And I bet, so real quick, in the weeks and months that followed in Chicago, walking around the streets of Chicago, I mean, what was it like? I mean, how long did this party go on?
I don't know. I wasn't there to the end. I went on a hunting trip after that. So I was in the middle of, I think, New Mexico in the mountains. So it was great. But I was there for several days. I'm sure not many people who were there could remember how long that party went, but it was just a great celebration, and there was so many things. I think the city was so proud, and it was so cool. I mean, you do something like that. Chicago is always like a secondary home to the Coghlan family. You met so many great people. It's just like what you're doing there, Lee, and Lai. You're creating wonderful memories by going through a very challenging goal. But as you continue to see fruit from that labor, it just really fortifies all the more in relationships and sentimental value.
Chris, we're gonna throw up a clip of you and your famous slide before we jump into this. This is one of the most, from what I understand, one of the most searched for clips on MLB.com. So
yes.
It's phenomenal. So we're going to play it for everyone, let them see it, and then we're going to bring you back, and I want you to break it down for us. All right?
Okay.
Let's watch it.
I've watched this personally for I don't know how many times already. So let's see it.
Yeah.
Lar hits it high and deep to right. Piscotty back on the track at the wall. It's over his glove, off the wall. Coghlan is headed for third. They're going to wave him home. Here's the throw from Piscotty to home plate. And Molina didn't tag him. What a play by Coghlan. He jumped over Molina and landed squarely on home plate.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Oh man, that's a tough. Yeah, there's so many things. Man, I didn't think I thought he was crazy for sending me home. I couldn't see anything behind me when I was running. I just was like, what? Somebody must have fallen down and couldn't get up. And so when I came around third, I peeked, just like you always do when you come around third, and you peek to see where the ball's coming. And I'm like, man, I'm going to be out by a mile. And so I just kept running, and there's a lot of rules that have changed over the years, but when I came up, I mean, you just ran the catcher over. That's just what you did. And so, the rules aren't the same. And, I still was going to run him over because if he was in front of the base, I had nowhere to go. but at the last second, he got so low. And if anyone in the audience has played football, when you go to tackle somebody, whoever really gets that leverage down low's got the best shot. And so I was like making a split-second decision, even though it was really slow in my mind. Everything was happening so fast. I just was like, I can't get lower than him when I'm running full speed like that. He's going to clean my clock, and so I just decided the last second to jump. I didn't really. That's as fast as it happened in my head, and had no idea it was going to happen. And then when you're up there, it's so fast, but it felt like, holy cow, I was like floating. And then I'm trying not to break my neck because I'm like, man, how am I going to land this thing? And so I was really fortunate. I didn't break my neck, and scored the run. We won the game. And it was one of those plays where my adrenaline was through the roof, I didn't really understand what just happened. And everyone was just freaking out, like couldn't believe. And you were like, dude, what just happened? I can't believe what happened. I'm like, I don't know, man. My adrenaline is through the roof. Let me just gather what just happened. I don't even know if my neck's really broken. I just can't feel it.
Yeah. Man, that's incredible. And, I just think it's so cool that you jump over one of the best catchers of all time. And I've been in the same room. I've been in the locker room with Yadi Molina. He's not a small guy. He's an intimidating character. So just this whole thing is really cool.
Well, Lee, let me tell you this. So that night we play we play a day game the next day, and I'm walking up to the plate and Yadi's there. And Yadi's like, hey, and I played against him. When I was in Miami, I played against him all the time in spring training and then being in the National League. And he was like, Poppy, thank you for not running me over. We just both laughed. And neither one of us wanted to get cleaned up. He was in a bad position. If I did, I would have been in a bad position. So it worked out. Yeah,
well, man, that's really cool. So, well, you've had an accomplished career. You're Rookie of the Year, World Series champion, first round draft pick. So when you reflect back on your career, what's been your favorite moment, if you can sum it up in one?
Lee, when you asked me to put this jersey on, I was like, it's been a while since I put a jersey on. And so it kind of just bring back a lot of different memories. And it's been a couple years since I've done that. And, I was thinking about some of those, and I just was really fortunate to have wonderful experiences. There was so much pain in the time. I know it's hard for people to understand that. How can you be in pain? You're living the dream. You're in the major leagues. What kind of pain is that? Where can I sign up for that? And I get that, but it's one of those things where you're fully exposed 24/7. Everybody's there to tell you why you suck, you stink. They write stuff. You got social media. You have questions you got to answer after you do stink. You get fired. There's just so much that goes into it. So when I think of Chris, it's hard to classify because you have the World Series. Yeah, you have the Rookie of the Year. But the one year, if that is the most memorable, might have been a personal year for me, which was 2014. And that's when I got released. I got fired from the Marlins. We were the worst team in baseball. I was like, wow, this isn't good. How do you get fired and they're the worst? So it's only, I don't know, job, different thing. Cubs picked me up on a minor league deal, and I got to go down to the minor leagues again after playing 5 years in the big leagues. And didn't feel fair. I had 2 injuries. I tore my knees. And I wasn't the same player, and I was going to get fired, calling up, and no longer starter, and went down there, and they played 7 dudes over me. I didn't think that was fair either, but that's just the way life works, because I knew I was better than, those guys. And I don't mean any disrespect to them, but I knew I could perform. And they basically ran out of people to play. That's how I ended up. They basically ran out of outfielders to play. and then they played me, and I hit really well, and they couldn't take me out of the lineup. They tried, they kept doing it. And then, because again, the Cubs were trying to lose, and I shouldn't say try to lose, but they condoned it because they knew they were trying to develop people, and that's a problem in sports. That's for another conversation. But, they were trying to develop people. So it wasn't like, hey, we're trying to win and the best player plays all the time. It was, hey, we got some young guys. We want to develop them. That's why they're going to play. And so eventually I played and I did really well. And I remember our last game was in Milwaukee. And we had a terrible year. We weren't very good. But individually, it was a big move for me and my family because we kind of reestablished ourselves in the big leagues, and reestablished ourselves as a player. And only my wife knows to a certain extent the amount of years in pain that I went through before I got to that 2014. I mean, I was going to retire at 26 because I couldn't walk. This is how bad it was. I mean, I called my agent. I said, I'm done. I'm going to go find another career. I can't walk. I'm tired of playing like this. Nobody can fix me. So there's so many things that I could spend, again, countless hours telling you stories, but that was a persevering year. And I remember us crying together when we drove home. Milwaukee to Chicago is like an hour and 15 minutes, and crying and just, thanking God that he allowed me to have that year. And what a whirlwind year. I mean, I couldn't have predicted. I mean, I was in Iowa in the snow to start the year. And at the end of the year, I was one of the most productive hitters in the National League. It just, so that year to me, and the amount of pain that I went through for years prior to that, I know it's hard to hear, like, hey, you won the World Series. You just talked about how great that is. It was, and I would put them neck and neck. But most memorable, man, personally, that year in 2014 that nobody will remember, nobody cares about except for my family and me, is probably the most rewarding year because that was the year I saw the fruit of multiple years of pain to get the goal that I wanted.
Man, that's good.
Amazing.
Well, Chris, man, that's a good foundation for us. I'm going to kick it over to Lai now, and we got some more questions that we've taken from our audience. So, Lai, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Lee. And so for your information, is that we have questions lined up from the participant that we have that are watching us live right now. Unfortunately, we couldn't have them on our screen right now, but I'm going to read it out to you and try to answer it as much as possible. Because we have more than a few papers here, But one of it, the first one, I would say, this is quite related to what we are having right now because Malaysia is currently in COVID and probably Southeast Asia countries are most of people are affected right now. So the question is from Mr. Yasser Mahathir in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, representing Team Malaysia under 15. So the question is, what are ways to train and improve skills during time of lockdowns?
Oh man, that's a very broad question, but if I could say anything, my favorite piece of equipment was a tee. It was very therapeutic to me. And because I could go do that on my own, baseball, you need some other people and some friends to help. But that tee was something I could just go and hit for hours. And I would play just games with myself of like where I wanted to hit the ball and how many times could I hit it to that spot in a row. And then if I missed, I wanted to miss once. I mean, what was the least amount of times I could miss before I hit the spot again? And so what that did is it allowed me to learn how to control the barrel of the bat and just learn, what it feels like to make solid contact over and over and over again into different spots, based off of where the ball was positioned. Was it inside? Was it down the middle? Was it away? Yes. Learning how to hit the ball to the different directions of the field. So I would say that from a hitter standpoint. From a pitcher, it would be, try to find a ball in a wall or something, working out is always big too, because you want to try to get strong, not like a bodybuilder, but like functionally strong.
So moving on to the second question. This question is coming from Indonesia, Jakarta, from Garuda Baseball Club, from Andri Panputra, asking for the young ones here in Indonesia. It says, and how can a young baseball player from Indonesia who loves the sport work his way up to eventually play in the major league?
Yeah, another, great question. Very, very broad, but, I think what are you willing to sacrifice? When I look back on things, is what are you willing to sacrifice? Because it's more about what you say no to than what you say yes to. And what I mean by that is, it's more about saying no. Like for me, at a young age, people wanted to party, people wanted to go on spring break, these are holidays in America, people wanted to do 4th of July, people wanted to do all these different things. And, I just knew at a young age, like, hey, I wasn't the greatest player. And the only way that I felt like I could beat competition was to work when they weren't working. True. And so that was my psychological way of viewing it when I was a teenager. And it was like, no. Hey, I'm not the fastest dude, the strongest dude. I can't hit the ball the farthest. I'm not even the best on my team. I can't even make my high school team, right? And so how do I get better? Well, I got to work when other people aren't working. And, because if I work the same amount they work, I'm not going to pass them up. Mm-hmm. So that's how I kind of thought, just at a real infancy level. And then it was, so that's why I hit till like 9, 10 o'clock at night with a tee, with nobody else around, into a net. Over and over and over again. And I would do as much as I could extra, on the weekend, when people were having weekends and they were playing with their friends and they were doing different things. I was at the field. Luckily, I had my dad who would hit me grounders, and he would throw BP to me. And then, so I got more reps than other people. And those reps, I started to see, I got better. My confidence grew. I got to see that. And the more confident that you become, the more you'll trust your skill, the better opportunity you have to succeed.
Amazing. I love to hear that. Thank you for that. The B-Rock softball team from Mr. Satria in Bali, Indonesia. I love Bali. So how do you handle yourself from cracking under pressure during such important games, from the regular seasons all the way to the World Series?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll tell you a story. I hope that it helps you.
Yep.
So in America, you're in the minor leagues and they play a game called the Futures game. Okay. And that game is played before the MLB All-Star game. And so it's the world versus America. And so you have the best minor league players based off of where they're from play each other. And they play at a big league stadium. So I played in the Futures game. I was one of the lowest level minor leaguers to play in that game. And it was in San Francisco. And San Francisco Stadium has 3 decks. Okay. So just a little bit of education on this one. So when you're in the minor leagues, like I saw your video, right? There's no bleachers, right?
True.
Well,
yes.
And in America, as fields continue to progress and there's more bleachers. And so there'll be 1 deck, 2 deck, like 2 decks is like, ooh, that's impressive stadium. That's a big stadium. That's like, and then if you get 3 decks, they're way up there. And you're like, wow, man, I'm like in an arena. I can't even see people up there. I just see bodies. Well, in San Francisco, it was the first 3-deck stadium I played in, and it was intimidating. And then I was playing with all these people I looked up to, everybody I looked up to. And my coach, I think what was it? Willie Mays was a bench coach. There was Hall of Famers everywhere. I mean, Dave Winfield. I mean, there was just legends in the game. And I always grew up watching baseball. And I just loved baseball. And I was like, wow, these dudes are like iconic in our game. And I'm in the same dugout with them. This is insane. And then I'm playing with all these guys that I read about that are borderline, major leaguers. Yes. And I go out there and I play, and I'm starting at second base, and the first batter of the game hits the ground ball, and you can go watch this, and it's embarrassing, and it goes right between my legs. First play. Now we're playing on ESPN. Outside of college, I hadn't played on ESPN yet at this point.
Yes.
And all I hear when they hit the ground ball is they go, oh, and this is like 35,000 people. I've never played in front of this many at this time. And then it's like, oh, and then I miss it.
You can hear it. You can hear it, right?
And I'm like, wow, I feel so embarrassed. Like, I can't believe I just did that. And here's what I learned. Okay. The reason why I did not succeed was because I let all of the elements, the outside elements, affect me emotionally before the game started. And so I wasn't focused on what I needed to do, which was perform. And I was focused on all these lights and glamour, 3 decks. I mean, why could I describe you the feeling? Because that's all I was paying attention to. And then I was like, oh yeah, I got this game I got to play. And then I missed the ball. So after the game, I was totally embarrassed. I had like a million text messages, like, blowing me up, like, you stink. And I said to myself, I'll never do that again. And so going back to your question, I never did. So when I got called up to the big leagues, my debut was in Denver, 3 decks, huge stadium, way bigger. And I said I'd never look at the scoreboard, and I wouldn't allow the outside elements, and so 7 innings went by like that. And I came out of the game. I thought I played like 20 minutes. It was because I was so locked in, and I didn't let other things, because I was scared to mess up.
Yeah.
And so what I would encourage this young girl is, whatever you're feeling when you walk out there and you're trying to perform and you're scared of failing, remember that fear and excitement is the same emotion. It's the same exact emotion. That feeling that you get where you're like, you got bubble in your stomach, or you got butterflies, whatever you want to call it. That's the same exact emotion. It's how you frame that motion in your head that changes the outcome of how you perform. So when you feel excited or nervous or scared, it's the same emotion. I would encourage you to use it as excitement, not fear, and have fun. And then don't worry about all the other outside elements. Just focus on what you're trying to do and accomplish.
This is coming from Malaysia. Another World Series questions. So, as a player, what did you see the Cubs do differently to win the 2016 World Series?
Well, I think we were the most talented team. But talent always doesn't win. I think the last time I thought the most talented team had won at that point in 16 was in 2009 when the Yankees won and they were loaded. And that's what's cool. So in sports, what's the coolest thing is that the most talented team doesn't always win. It's the one who plays the best together. And that's what we always did. We just had such a, when you listen to any team who wins, I would encourage anyone. I don't care what sport it is, just listen. And they always tell you about one thing, and that's about the team and how close you were and how we believed in each other, and we always had each other's back, and we always were there. And I don't think anyone does it better than the military. You just brother and sister back to back, your life's on the line.
True.
And so it's something that is, in our case, we were just really tight, and we believed in each other, and we picked each other up, and we were really talented. And so you put that all together, and that's a tough combo to beat, and we were fortunately enough to win.
From Mr. Pratama W. Bayuarta. So he said, from your perspective and experience, what's the most difficult or hardest thing about this game, and what tips do you have to overcome such challenges?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the most hardest thing is failure. I mean, I think, just failing constantly. I mean, you got to build a high threshold. There's, like I said, you can go do any job. I mean, even basketball, right? I mean, if you fail 70% of the time, you shoot 30% all the time, not just from three, anywhere, you're fired. You go play football and you're the quarterback or you're a pass catcher or you're anything and you do it 30% of the time, I mean, you're fired. It's not, I make a joke, unless you're a weather person who predicts when it's going to rain or not, it's the only other occupation you can be wrong that many times and still keep a job. And so I just think it's, hey, and when I say job, I mean professionally. So entering your world, even as a teenager, most kids give it up because they don't get enough hits, or they don't get enough outs as a pitcher, or they can't catch a fly ball. And instead of trying to persevere and try to get better at it, because those are some skills that you can learn, especially at high school. It's different when you're talking about the big leagues. Like, there's a lot of different talents and gifts that are associated with that. But in high school, you can compete. In middle school, you can compete, even if you're not the best, and by just working at it. And what I would tell you is that more than anything, I know it's hard, but I want to harp on this, is it's learning these skills. These skills is what plays in life, no matter what you do next, whether you're a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, whether you're a police officer, whatever job occupation you want to go in, a farmer, anything, you need these skills. And that's what I love about baseball. So the hardest thing in baseball is dealing with failure all the time, every day.
Right. Amazing. That I love that one. I need that in my life too. So, so number from Kiara Prameswari from Indonesia. What was it like in the Marlins dugout when Scott Coghlan had a home plate collision with Buster Posey on May 25th, 2011? I've been a Giants/Posey fan my whole life, and I've always wanted to hear the story from the other side of the dugout. Do you think it was a dirty play, and did everyone talk about it, or was it just another play of the game?
That's a great question. Yeah. I'm debating how detailed to go with this one, but yes, I was there. I was actually, if you watch the video, I was the guy on deck when the guy hit the ball, and I was in the background telling Cousins to get down, to slide. So I was right there, outside of Posey, the umpire, and Cousins. I was the closest to him. So no, I don't think it was a dirty play. That was well within the rules. That's the reason why he didn't get fined or anything. That's how the game, I told you about Yachty, that's how the game was played. Yes. And then people changed rules because Posey got hurt. We call it the Posey rule. And so, yeah, he got stuck in a bad position, and, it was loud and ugly, for Posey. I'm sure he was mad. I know Cousins was really heartbroken. Here's a side story for him. He's from San Francisco and played at the University of San Francisco. So Cousins was a diehard, had a bunch of family. And this is what I tell you about that, I've just scratched the surface on. Like, I felt so bad for Cousins. I felt bad for Posey for obvious reasons, but that's what we sign up for too. We all knew, if you're a catcher, what the rules were. And that was a possibility. And for Cousins, I mean, people had death threats. They wanted to kill him because people were just that crazy about what happened with Posey. And, that was a lot on him. And this is stuff that's real, that happens behind the scenes. And he had a hard time dealing with that. He couldn't go out in his own hometown crowd, in San Francisco, because Posey was the man. And San Francisco, like this individual said, they love the Giants, and, they're sending them death threats, telling them they want to kill them. So from our side, I felt bad for Posey. Cousins did everything within the rules. you know, and there was we scored the run, and not to make it not to sound ruthless, but that's we all know it's like football. You all know what you sign up for. There's a possibility, unfortunately, you can get very seriously injured.
There's a risk to it.
Yeah. So I'm glad Posey recovered, and won a batting title after that, I think. Or so he's good. But yeah, not many people know the Scott Cousins side of the story that he had to deal with, and I don't know if he has to live with that forever. So I don't know if he has ever recovered emotionally from it.
From Lat or Laila, is it from Selangor, Malaysia? What goes through your mind when you enter the batter spot?
I've said that really cut and dry. It's the confidence too. So it's the conviction. I just want to encourage you is to try to talk to yourself positively. So when you're going up there, you're facing somebody who throws the ball hard, or you feel uncomfortable, or mom and dad are in the stands and you feel like you're scared to get out or let them down, or your teammates, you're scared to let your teammates down, or you're the person who hadn't gotten a hit in forever and you don't have, these are all real emotions. And so for me, it was keeping that laser focus, like we talked about earlier.
Yes.
And then it's just believing that, like, I'm not walking up here to get out. I'm walking up here to get a hit, and I'm going to get a hit because this guy who's throwing to me is trying to get me out, and I'm competing against him, and I don't want to lose. So that's as cut and dry and as simple as I can say it. I walk up to the dugout and I'm like, I'm going to get a hit, or if I have to lay a bunt down, or if I have to move the runner over, whatever the situation calls for, I'm going to do that. And in my head, I believe that before I go up there.
Okay, so coming to the last questions here is Razik from Malaysia, Raiders baseball team. So he said, how do you manage fatigue while traveling distances, and how does it affect your game?
You got to take care of yourself. I take little cat naps if I can, but you got to drink water. You got to eat the right foods. You got to rest, when you can. So, yeah, we traveled, not like we were going to Malaysia, but we would go 3 hours and you'd play a game in the day, and then you'd fly 7 hours, or it'd be like 7 hours if you went West Coast. And then you have a 3-hour time difference. Those were tough. And you gotta grind through it. We used to say a joke was, this is what you get paid to do. But I would just say, hey, sleep, drink water, and try to eat healthy foods.
All right. So I guess that's the last question, because I'm getting a notice now saying that I should hasten this up, right? So I'm sorry about that. So how would you take this over, boss?
Yeah, I'll do that. Well, we just want to, again, thank you all so much for joining us for Inside the Dugout. Chris, thank you so much. Your insights, your experience, I think it's going to really help all of us move baseball forward throughout Asia. And I know we've got so many people excited about this and excited about more to come. So thank you for joining us. Again, follow us on Instagram @AdvancedBaseball. Like us on Facebook. Stay in touch. If reach out to us at any time if you think ABI can help you move baseball forward in your country or in your club or wherever. Please let us know. We'll be glad to correspond with you. So again, good evening, and we'll see you next time.
Right. So thank you very much, Mr. Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoyed it, man. Take care.
See ya.